Today we will be demonstrating how to do range of motion for shoulder external rotation. This is the standard position. Therefore, the client should be able to abduct the arm to 90 degrees. The client is seated or supine with the humerus abducted to 90 degrees and the elbow flexed to 90 degrees, and the forearm is pronated. The therapist stands to the side of the client. She takes a goniometer, which is her measuring tool for this activity, and she places it on the olecranon process of the elbow. At this point, the stationary arm of the goniometer and the movable arm of the goniometer are both in line with the forearm. The normal range of motion for this activity is 0 to 90 degrees. The therapist will first take note of her starting range of motion to make sure she is at 0 degrees, and if not, she will need to document it. The therapist will then instruct the client to externally rotate her arm by moving it toward the ceiling. The therapist will keep the stable arm of the goniometer in line with where her forearm was originally, and the axis on the olecranon process. The movable arm goes with her forearm to measure her full range of motion. This did measure full range of motion. However, if the client is unable to complete the full range of motion, say she has a disability or something inhibiting it, the client will do as much as she can, and then the therapist will passively measure the rest of the range of motion. The therapist will take note of the active range of motion and the passive range of motion readings. To test the client's shoulder internal rotation, have the client return to the starting position. You're at 0 degrees. Instruct the client to complete the motion in the opposite direction. Once again, the movable arm goes with the forearm and the stationary arm stays where it was. This can be completed actively or passively. The therapist notes the degrees and documents them. If the client is unable to complete shoulder external and internal rotation because she cannot abduct her humerus to 90 degrees, this is an alternative method. Have the client sit down with the humerus adducted against the trunk. The elbow should be at 90 degrees and the forearm at the mid position and perpendicular to the body. The therapist will take the axis of the goniometer and place it on the olecranon process of the elbow. Therefore, the goniometer is up under her arm. The therapist will instruct the client to move her forearm away from her body in external rotation. The movable arm of the goniometer goes with her forearm and the stationary arm stays where it was in the beginning. She notes the degrees and documents them. Then, to test shoulder internal rotation, she has the client return to neutral 0 degrees. The therapist instructs the client to pull her arm inward in shoulder internal rotation. The movable arm went with the forearm and the stationary arm stayed where it was. It is important to note that the client may not be able to fully complete this motion due to her trunk.